So here we are, another Farming Our Future conference. And I want to say first and foremost, thank you all for taking the time, coming out, helping us kick this off. This is really kind of the bonus session, right? I mean, early bird gets some access here and some preferential opportunity to have some dialogue that doesn't happen every day. Obviously have some distinguished individuals here who are leaders in both the elected capacity but also community stakeholders that have worked for years on behalf of agriculture, not only formally but informally. My name is Todd Erling. I'm with Hudson Valley Agribusiness Development Corporation and one of the steering committee members, and another round of thanks I think we should put out to Steve Hadcock and Karen DePiri and the entire steering committee for pulling this together for our third Farming Our Future. We also want to give quick recognition and sincere thanks to Taconic School. Superintendent Dr. Neil Howard is here today. Neil, if you want to say a few remarks.
Well, thank you. I just want to say that what you're seeing today is really a team effort. I'd like to thank the buildings and ground staff, a lot of individuals here that work for the district, as well as you're going to see a lot of students around that are taking an active interest in a role in this Farming Our Future, which we think is very important here. So we're putting an emphasis as a school district in this area because we think of the value and the opportunities that are out there for our children.
Thank you. Thanks, Neil. Very much appreciated. And not only do you see this here today, but this is an embodiment of, a 24/7 idea that's really sprouted, all pun intended, and really flourished well in this school environment. And we see Taconic Hills and some of the other efforts that it is spreading throughout not only the Columbia County school districts, but our neighbors to the east in Massachusetts, and obviously north and south and across the river. So what we have here today in front of us is actually a great cross-section of not only representation here at this physical location, but some adjacent districts and what is happening. So without further ado, let's just kind of walk through and get into the meat of the session. We obviously have state and federal legislators here. The New York State Senator Terry Gibson, our respected assembly members, Mr. Lopez, Assemblyman Lopez coming across. Yeah, perfect timing, right? Assemblywoman Barrett, and then Congressman Gibson. Commissioner Richard Ball has joined us, and while we understand he is not an elected official, he does represent the direct liaison to the highest state elected official, the governor, as the acting commissioner, and we expect to be the appointed commissioner very soon. But with that, we're just going to kind of go down the table here and have each individual kind of talk about their role and their interaction with agriculture, and maybe talk about the district you represent because it is a little bit different. And then we're going to open up dialogue to you guys and just facilitate some conversation. Chris?
Yeah, thanks Todd, and thanks Neil. Great to be with you. And I just want to express my gratitude to all the organizers, and thanks for reaching out for the invite. I'm excited to be with you today and to talk about the federal piece of this. But let me just begin by saying, in the face of, as we gather today, the face of challenge, and when you watch the news today, I mean, you're bombarded with negativity and divide. I would tell you that I'm optimistic and I'm enthusiastic about the future, especially for farming, but really in general. And let me say why. Two basic reasons why, and the first has to do with collaboration and teamwork, and this room really represents that. And I'm going to talk about the burgeoning network of support from government, so a public-private partnership, and that's where I'll talk a little bit about the Farm Bill. But this collaboration, I think about my walk on this, how much I've learned. I mean, only 3.5 years ago, I was a soldier, and I had so much to learn about agriculture. And I have been taught. I have had an ag advisory panel. I've listened to folks, and a lot of that instruction came from some of the groups that are here today. The Young Farmers Coalition, which played an instrumental role for me in the Beginning Farmer program. The Greenhorns, the organic community, which is gaining in traction, and I will tell you, made a difference in this Farm Bill. The Columbia Land Conservancy, you can reach back to the mid-1980s when literally and figuratively, they initially started as a voice in the wilderness and today has real traction. I see Peter in the audience here today, but this is manifest in programs at all levels. Certainly the Board of Supervisors, and we have some folks here today, thank you for that, really important that you're here. That you see policy at the county level and then impact and an opportunity to interact with state elected and appointed officials. And then at the federal level, I'll just tell you that the Columbia Land Conservancy made a difference in this farm bill, along with Ned Sullivan and Scenic Hudson and others, strengthening the conservation title and ensuring robust support. Other aspects of collaboration, I just want to tell you that the Hudson Valley agribusiness, what Todd's involved with, is the thing about the farm bill. You can make it as strong as you possibly can, but at the end of the day, it's a pull system. You got to request it, and so you need those subject matter experts who have experience in actually the hard knocks of applying for these programs, winning some grants, not winning all grants, learning about how to get more competitive, and we have that here. So we need to take advantage of that, and certainly Todd in the RBAG program and others, he has experience, and that's part of this collaboration. Tessa and Farman, a new force on the scene here, and really playing a role in terms of inspiring youth to take on a very healthy lifestyle and the integration of generations across time. And I think that they're already off to a tremendous start. I will tell you that Todd wanted me to also mention the district is 11 counties, and we actually border on 4 states. With Vermont, with Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania. I bring that up to say that part of this collaboration is this excitement that's going on here in Columbia, and of course Terry's here at Dutchess County. You're seeing that on the other side of the river too. You may have seen in the news recently the local economics project and what is basically a farm hub and an incubator for a new generation hearing the calling of farming. And that's going to have, I think, important implications for the public-private space. The Cornell Cooperative Extension. Of course, I'm biased. I'm a grad myself, but I will tell you that I say that as a disclaimer, I guess. But let me just say this: that we are really blessed. The Cornell Cooperative Extension. I mean, we just plussed up the research account in the Farm Bill, and Cornell does such a tremendous job. Efficiently and effectively using those resources. We know there's a direct correlation between research and yield. Research and yield of our specialty crops, and the Cornell Cooperative Extension is also extensively involved in helping dairy farmers understand the new title. I was just with them out in Otsego County. They have spent a lot of time researching the new dairy title, and so they're going to be in a position to advise our dairy producers on just where they ought to be with the marginal insurance framework. And that's part of this collaboration. Of course, the Hawthorne Valley Association. So, I just want to say that among the 2 reasons why I'm very optimistic is one is this great teamwork and collaboration. The second is the burgeoning network of support from government. And, our county board of supervisors, I've been encouraged by where they've been in the last year or so. We have so much further to go. And what I would suggest to the board of supervisors is to really get waist deep, swim around in all this collaboration, because there's so much earth that's been moved here that we ought to take advantage of that. And certainly Peter has written about this. He's published in the Register Star. But when you think about what drives this economy here in Columbia County, I mean, really knowing what we're good at, agriculture is our main driver, and then tourism is second. And at the nexus of agriculture and tourism is conservation. And ensuring that our best farmland stays farming, and that we can take advantage of these federal and state programs so that we can accelerate our tourism programs. And you see examples of that with the Forest Legacy Program, a federal program, but you see a wonderful project that is in the offing here now in New Lebanon and Canaan. And this is only the very beginning. We've got so much further to go. The state, and of course we'll hear from our legislators and commissioners. I'm going to talk about, at the federal level, what I want to do in just the remaining minutes here is just talk about the beginning farmer program. I think I might have an opportunity later to talk about broader the Farm Bill impact, which is going to be significant and positive for our area. But the beginning farmer program is the federal piece of support for, in large measure, what's going on here in our region. You know, this was a bill that I co-authored with another veteran, Sergeant Major retired Tim Walls, Democrat from Minnesota. This was constituent-driven, listening. In fact, I don't know that Lindsay's here today. She just recently had her second child. But Lindsay and Ben Shute, leaders in the Young Farmers Coalition, which is a national organization, you know, they helped fashion this bill. The Beginning Farmer and Rancher Opportunity Act of 2013, about 2/3 of which ended up enacted into law in the Farm Bill. And I thank them for that. And the key word here is access. Access to land, and there are 3 different programs that help with access to land. And in my journey, what I've learned is that's actually the greatest challenge for beginning farmers, is getting access to land in this region. So, you know, we have incentive programs, the Transition Incentive Program, and 2 different loan programs to help young farmers get access to land. Access to training, and Martin Ping in the Hawthorne Valley's got a great training program here, but it's just symptomatic of a larger effort across the country. Access to value-added producer grants, access to conservation. Now, of course, all farmers have access to the conservation title, but what we do for beginning farmers is recognizing the cash flow challenge, that there are upfront monies for beginning farmers so to help them on that score. And access to capital and credit, including what Lindsay helped put together, which is a new microloan program fashioned particularly for those in the Hudson Valley and including our organic community to get access to this type of credit. Access to discounts on insurance. Beginning farmers for the first 5 years will get a 10% discount on their insurance. So, and then external support, and we're bringing forward a new crop insurance program, which is going to be really important, and that's going to help our beginning farmers access to marketing. We tripled the amount of investment in terms of marketing. We know that there's been a great trend and that the city is eating healthier, but we know that we can do more to spread that word, and we've got the resources to do that. So anyways, I will tell you that I think our best days are in front of us. I think between that collaboration and the burgeoning network of support, that we're going to have a good decade. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. That was great. So he gets a gold star from me. I'm a husband of a teacher because he just showed you very briefly the just tip of the iceberg of the number of points of interaction with the Farm Bill and Northeast farmers in New York and Columbia County and Hudson Valley farmers in particular. But he brought home the point of succession and transition to the next generation, which is our overall theme of this conference. So I really appreciate that, Chris. And the last thing I just want to put out there is that the Farm Bill is vast, right? But it interacts with all of us 3 times a day, minimum, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, okay? And we need to always think about that. You know, we may not be farmers ourselves, but we completely rely on farmers for both what we put in our bodies and what we put on our bodies. So, and much more than that, but that's really our personal interaction every day. Dee Dee, would you like a chance to say a few words?
Sure.
We really appreciate it.
That's a tough act to follow, but I also want to thank you. This is my 3rd year at this conference. I first became involved before I was elected to office working with the National Young Farmers Coalition, before they were even national, working with Lindsay and Ben to start raising money and start raising their profile. The Farm On Foundation, also that Chris commented about, is also working with the next generation, our schools. That's partly what, as a mother, that's partly what has motivated me, in addition to just the love of this district. As some of you know, I represent part of Dutchess and part of Columbia County, most of which is very rural. I have the city of Hudson, I have the town of Poughkeepsie and Hyde Park, which are a little more suburban, a little more urban, but the rest of it is all farmland. And it's spectacularly beautiful, and I feel so blessed not only to be representing this, but to be living every day and driving from one end of the 70 miles in my district north and to south, and from the Hudson River to the Connecticut border. But it's just spectacularly gorgeous, and we are so lucky to be living in this region, and we're lucky to have the kind of communities that Chris and the organizations that Chris talked about, the Land Conservancy, these young farmer groups, the long-time Farm Bureau work that many of you have done. Just the commitment to farming and to agriculture and to the next generation, but also to your own communities. And we're seeing this so profoundly right now in this struggle over the power lines, because I can't tell you how many people have said to me, you know, I don't know, most of you I'm sure have been at some of these meetings where we've had 200-300 people in, you know, where 200, 300 people, you have to, you know, go pretty far afield in order to get that many people in a, you know, in a neighborhood, but have shown up at these meetings to protest the risk of power lines that would destroy our farms, our view sheds, the tourism that we've been working so hard to develop here. And they say to me, I could never get 200 people in my district to show up, and we can, because we care, because these are communities that are engaged and recognize the things that they love about their home and are empowered by the, you know, their longtime traditions here to stand up for the things that they care about. And that's been an incredibly powerful thing, both to fight these power lines, but also to just stand up for all the things that we care about in this region and be sure that our agriculture and that our farming does transition to the next generation in a sustainable way, so that economically as well as environmentally we have a sustainable economy here in Columbia County and in the Hudson Valley. So thank you, and I'm always available as a proud member of the Agriculture Committee. I look forward to working with our new commissioner. It's great to have somebody who's, you know, who's from our general region, the capital region, and understands what the small and family farms are dealing with here, because that's what our northeastern farms are, and that's the future of farming. So thank you, and look forward to spending the day with all of you.
So, you know, there's a common denominator here across the legislative table, and that's Agriculture Committee service and appointment. Dee Dee, you also recently announced the appointment to the Tourism Committee. Right. So real convergence here, and we want to really say we appreciate having seats at both and where they interact. But she also hit the point of people coming into rooms and community stakeholders in these legislative districts getting together and voicing opinion. Government's a two-way street, right? And Pete and Dee Dee, I've seen them not only sit one-on-one, but in rooms like this. And that's the point, the dialogue back and forth. And Pete, I don't know if you might want to hit on that, but that's actually been one of your strengths over these years, especially recovering from the floods and other things.
Sure, my name is Pete Lopez. I'm Assemblyman for 102nd Assembly District, 7 counties, so Mid-Hudson, Northern Catskill, Southern Tier. So Columbia, Greene, Ulster, Delaware, Schoharie, Otsego, Albany. We used to go down this and go, I only have 7 counties. I can't keep up with the congressman. I'm doing 1,000 miles a week. God bless him. I don't know how much he's doing. One thing I would say to you, and I'm thrilled to be with you today, and you know, part of our challenge is that we all have a vested interest. And I'm not going to steal Richard's line. I'll let him talk. He has a couple phrases, but one of the challenges I see is that there's a disconnect. There's still a basic disconnect between public policy when it comes to farming and support of farms and family farms and the general public. And there are two dialects. As I travel, I do 1,000 miles a week, and I use an acronym back to one-on-one, MBWA, Management by Wandering Around. So as I wander around, I'll sit with farmers one day, I'll talk with other folks in communities, and we'll have honest conversation. And in that conversation, I'll hear people talk about farming and food, and we'll have one dialect that talks about economic multiplier and unit productivity and dollars generated at the farm gate. So that's one school of wisdom. The other school of wisdom talks about local food, safe food, 100-mile diet, carbon footprint. And what I find is that both dialects are saying the same thing. The common denominator is the family farm. And so our challenge is, how do we take that common passion for family farms and make sure that they're viable and make sure that they can get support. You know, I had one woman say to me in Saugerties, Pete, I want money for farmland preservation. I don't want money for dairy support. Give me money for farmland preservation. And what I said to her is, she's in Saugerties, and I said, I understand that. In high growth areas where there's demand pressure, farmland preservation is a viable and useful tool. And then we talked about all these things, you know, the importance of local food, safe food. I said, but what good is it to have the land if the family farm that we value can't make a living? So ultimately, this conference and this dialogue statewide across our regions has to focus on how do we help family farms? How do we help them invest? How do we help young people get involved? How do we help existing farms expand? How do we help meet a need of a state that's a net importer of food? There was an old report, it was years ago, maybe Richard can help us in his new role. It was called the Cornucopia Report. It suggested that 80% of what we eat in New York is imported. What's that all about? We're missing the boat. So our challenge is, how do we bring people in? How do we build value-added manufacturing, create more jobs? How do we keep family farms? And how do we feed our own people, lift our upstate economy, at the same time we're providing safe local food? So I think there's great value to this dialogue, and we've got to address that disconnect, because it's all about price paid for farmer and all about the cost of doing business. And that's the bottom translation. So glad to be with you.
Thanks, Pete. Thank you. Senator Gibson, I'm going to say Terry because I know I'm going to trip over Gibson and Gibson throughout, so I apologize. We appreciate you coming up out of district. I mean, I think this really shows at times the dialogue that we have in the Hudson Valley. There are other parts of the state, and I'm fortunate enough to be working regionally and throughout the state, that you stay in your district, but you're up here. We really appreciate it. And I think you bring some of that understanding from your previous role as a village elected official. Maybe you can make some comments about that interaction and what you've seen now coming up to Albany, or not. I don't mean to suggest your script.
Sure. Well, thanks again for having me here today. It's a real pleasure. This is the first time I've been a part of this. I am the ranking member of the Senate Ag Committee, and I'm very happy to be in that role. And I do think it's important that we work together no matter where we live, no matter what county we're in. We have to think about agriculture as being a statewide benefit, an asset that we have to all sort of pitch in and work together. I don't think there should be any division lines. I don't think the river should divide us. I don't think county lines should divide us. I think we should all share our ideas and profit from that. My role as a ranking member on the Ag Committee has been so far to really advocate that we make it more affordable for farmers and future farmers to be able to live here and to farm here.
Yep.
It has been expensive. One of the things I'm very proud of is that I was a co-sponsor on a bill that recently became law, which lowered the property assessment cap from 10% to 2% on all agricultural land, which is going to save those in the ag business an enormous amount of money immediately, starting now. So I'm very proud of that. Also, from the beginning of the time I was elected last year, I was a very vocal opponent of the 18A utility tax. Farms are one of the biggest users of electricity in the state. And the 18A utility tax is unfortunately another creative way that New York State came up with a few years back to try to find ways to bring in revenues. So they thought, well, hey, we'll just add more taxes onto those people that need electricity to actually do their business.
And it's disproportionately.
It's not making a lot of sense.
Yep.
So last year, we did make some headway and begin to phase that out. Over the next 3 years, it'll be phased out to zero. But the good news is this year the governor's budget has proposed that it be repealed immediately, so I'm hoping that we can actually achieve that. I'm also very happy to be sponsoring Assemblymember Barrett's bill in the Senate, which she put together, which essentially gives farmers tax credits for the cost of their tolls on the highways, which again is about sort of connecting us together. Why should someone traveling from one district to another district on a highway be paying tolls when they need to get their goods to a farmer's market?
They have no
need to get their
choice.
goods to the other side of the field. So that's going to bring back some savings as well. One of the things I'm concerned about right now that's a very active issue in terms of dividing us up is the governor has proposed a plan to offer up a 0% corporate tax discount to agribusinesses and anyone in the manufacturing business. Yep. The only problem with that is that he's exempted the MTA region from that. So my district, Dutchess and Putnam County, would not be able to participate in that, but yet Columbia County would. Right. I think if you're going to have one state be successful, you have to allow these benefits to apply to all areas. So we're going to be speaking up about that in the near future. I also want to see our inner cities, some of which I do have in my district, play a bigger role in farming. I think I'd like to see Future Farmers of America become an installation in places like Beacon and Poughkeepsie. They don't just have to be in farming communities. There's a lot to educate there. And also, I'm very happy to be working with all my colleagues, but especially Chris Gibson, on the issue of Lyme disease. We want our farm workers, our farmers, to be safe when they go out in the fields to work. This is a rising crisis that we have to deal with here, and I have several bills that deal with that. Hopefully, we can increase the funding and research research that component as we move forward. So that's just some of the few of the things that I'm working on, and happy to be here and answer any questions that you have, and thanks again for putting this together.
Thank you very much, Terry. Good job. Richard, you and I had a great conversation, kind of expectations, and would you like to make a few comments, or you want to observe or have the opportunity? I'm putting the ball in your court.
Sure, I'll just say a couple of quick things because I think it would be great to get to an interaction
Dialogue.
here pretty quickly. And pretty tough to follow what you just heard. I'm going to get my line out that I give Pete all the time, and that is, it's all about the food.
That's it.
It's all about the food. You know, your subject for your conference here, farming, our future, is kind of rings kind of personally with me. I was one of those kids that fell in love with agriculture at my grandfather's knee because he had a dairy farm down in Halkett Center on the corner of Greene County and Delaware County. But I wasn't able to convince him to sell me the farm when I was 9. And he went ahead and retired. And so I was one of those kids that wanted to be a farmer but found an opportunity working on a farm. And after 20 years of working on a farm, learning how to farm, I felt like we had the optimism and maybe enough knowledge to get started. And somewhere along the line, I told my banker that I picked up the ability to confuse a banker and was able to purchase our own farm. So I think right now, looking at having built Schoharie Valley Farms and Schoharie to the stage that it is now, looking at transitioning to the next generation. I'm a first generation farmer, really, started over. But now we have 3 generations on the farm, and we want to make sure that it's sustainable and that the next generation has the opportunity. That's really our challenge as we go forward here. I had get asked a lot about the state of agriculture, and I'm reminded of the word crisis. Terry, you just said crisis, and it kind of dinged in my head that the way that word crisis is written in Chinese caricatures, there's 2 caricatures. One represents danger, the other opportunity. And I think that's an interesting way to look at crisis, but I think that's where we are today in agriculture. We're at the edge of so many great things. They're a little scary, but I think we can tip the balance the right way. The fact that you have this group of people up here on your side, on our side, and you here caring, I mean, there's nobody that knows more, wearing my Farm Bureau hat from a few months ago, walking up and down the halls in Washington about the Farm Bill. Nobody knows more about the Farm Bill in Congress than Chris Gibson, period, end of story. And today the Farm Bill that we have is more about what New York does than any Farm Bill there's ever been. So that's a very positive thing. And everyone else here, Dee Dee and Pete and Terry, in our state, I mean, it's not just a federal thing, it's a state thing, and obviously it's a very local thing. But we're at the edge of very great things, I think, and with you being here and this group of people, let's tip the balance the right way. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
All right, pressure's on. Time for some dialogue. And I just want to throw out that this is really, a cycle that we've created, and we have some great inertia. About 3 years ago, we kicked off our public sessions for a Columbia County Ag and Farmland Protection Plan, which has now shifted full cycle, been submitted for approval with the commissioner, and we've heard some good things about that. So I want to just say that it's you guys out in the audience are just as much of the two-way street here, so let's open that up. Yes, sir. Who you are and quick question.
Good morning. My name is Dave Vickery with Horseman Trail Farm in Putnam County.
Great.
I have 2 questions, 2 concerns just to put out for you. The first one is that I would like to encourage you to continue to support funding for alternative energy. In particular, in my case, not so much small wind, but small photovoltaics, solar, because we're just getting solar on our farm. The NYSERDA grant has been a very big part of us being able to take advantage of that. My second, that'd be for everything, continue to encourage solar. The second thing is as an organic farmer, I'm very concerned about chemical trespass It's a dialogue that's being opened on the federal level right now for this coming go-around. And I see it as a very important thing because I think it's a very, it's a real threat against organic farming because chemical and biological trespass can really put an organic farmer completely out of business. So just want to say that's very important to me.
Great, thank you, appreciate that.
Can I
The rural
respond?
energy assistance and.
Yeah, let me respond to that just to say that I absolutely concur. In fact, some of our speakers talked about being empathetic with the challenge of a farmer, the administrative costs. We've addressed that in part, but I want to, the point you made on energy, that's among the biggest contributors to the bill for a farmer at the end of the month. And the photovoltaics, we, throughout Columbia and Dutchess County, we disproportionately used these federal programs. You'll see throughout, parts of Terry's district and Dee Dee's and Pete's, you'll see that farms, we had a good number of farms that brought in the photovoltaics. That helps drive down their energy bill. In fact, with the power purchasing agreement, which is the latest that's arrived on the scene from a financing standpoint, the farmer doesn't even have to put out any outlays. You just sign a lease, and then you'll have a reduction in your energy costs. In addition to photovoltaics, let me say that in our farm bill, we make investments for biomass and also for the community wood project. Now, this is really exciting because sustainable forestry is, I think, inextricably linked to agriculture, and especially in a district like mine, where I've got wood pellet companies, and I think that this helps farmers, but we also have a community not far from here, Fleshman's, that's actually looking at a community wood project. And so, I'm looking forward to bringing that federal support, because I think that's going to be helpful. And then let me address the organic. So this farm bill, absolutely we could have gone further, and I wish we did, but we made more strides for organic this farm bill than we've ever seen before. Big victories. We had an amendment vote in the Ag Committee where we carried the day on a checkoff program, or actually a promotional program, a checkoff program, where for the first time the organic community is going to be able to band together and promote their goods. I mean, you see it when you see got milk.
Dairy, right.
Yeah, you see got milk or beef, it's what's for dinner. When the organic community has tried to do that in the past, they've always been brushed aside, saying, no, you're not organic, you're really good. You're fruit and vegetable, you're not organic.
Different commodity.
Yeah, you're a commodity.
Right.
And we actually won this vote, and I think it surprised some folks, the fact that we were able to carry that vote. We also sustained the support for going through the process, the certification process. There was an effort to zero that out, and we beat that back and kept that support. We also robustly, again, I wish we could have gone further, but we pretty robustly funded the research for the organic community at $100 million. So, I'm actually, I think that this area, of course I'm biased on this, but I think the Hudson River Valley has got the strongest organic community in the country, and I want to see us use these programs so that we can show efficacy in the programs and why it'll be so important for all links to our economy. So thank you for those questions and comments.
Great. Phil.
Quickly, I want to thank all of you. I'm Phil Trowbridge. We have a family farm in Ghent, which I don't like using the word family farm anymore. Part of the problem, and I'm serious, is we have a DMZ now. In our local paper the other day, we were reading about don't mess with the big farm. What is a big farm? Is there a corporate farm in this area?
Right.
Does anybody know of a corporate farm in this region?
Right.
I'm a corporation. I'm a corporate farm. There's lots of corporate farms here. Nobody wants to talk about it. You guys have to help us.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll tell you, here's where I make the distinction. And because families, actually LLC, because they need that protection.
Structure.
They need that structure. But really, I learned this, a lot of this changed while I was in the Army. I left here in '86, I came back in '10. And when folks talk about the corporate farm, they are not talking about the Hudson River
Right.
Valley.
No, they're talking
These
the
are
mega-
family.
We're
These
talking
are
about mega
family
farms here.
You can say that all you want. But that was not what was in the local paper.
What was
Okay,
what was the
listen,
message?
just-
Yeah.
The message was the farm bill is not good. How much money from the farm bill actually goes to the farmers? You know, you know.
Yeah.
Do you guys know? Do any of you have any idea?
How much actually goes to
What
farmers?
percentage
A
goes
small
to
part,
farmers?
A small part.
So it
There's
goes like
80% goes to food
non-farmers.
stamps.
Non-farm,
80% of a $900 billion bill. Does anybody else here know that? A few do, but most of them don't. Why do we call it the Farm Bill? I like it to call it the pink and sexy. Because most farmers are very trustworthy. We like to talk about it. So you call it the Farm Bill.
Well, let me say this, Bill. You know I'm on your side on,
Yes, sir.
on all matters with all farmers, but I'll say this. There's an inextricable link between nutrition and our farmers. And I would also tell you that what and Richard mentioned this, we made progress this time because we worked together in the Northeast. I mean, we worked together, Senator Joe Brandon, myself, Bill Owens, because most of the Farm Bill, with the exception of a debate we had about SNAP, is not partisan. It's regional. And this gets to your point. And we, for the first time, we actually stopped direct payments for farmers not planting. I mean, look, we could have gone further, but the fact is, we tilted the balance back towards the Northeast like it's never been seen before. We could go further, but the investments we made in the organic community, the investments we made to protect dairy, the investments that we made for renewable energy, for fighting Lyme disease, for expanding broadband, this was a step in the right direction, and I look forward to building on that momentum as we look towards the future.
I agree with you and I appreciate that. What I'm asking the five of you to do is to just be careful how you couch your terminology.
If I may, Phil, I'd like to address, and I come from, and just to put in perspective, part of our challenge is that we are too quick as a society to label and put people in categories. So
In
I'm
general,
So I'm a
right?
Miami
Not
born.
just-
So I'm a Miami-born, half Puerto Rican, English, Scotch, Dutch, German, upstate country boy. Republican, go figure. All right. So I am labeled all over the place, and we have an issue here that's impacting some farms in the valley. I was just up in Stuyvesant and talking to a dairy farmer, and there's a cooperative, a local cooperative, that is running up against what's called the Real Food Initiative, which is happening on college campuses. And so BARD, which is buying milk from this cooperative, is saying that, no, we don't want to buy from your farm because you're a CAFO. So here's another label. So you're a concentrated animal feeding operation, all right, which is, if you're 250 head or more, is that what the title?
Over 300.
Over 300. So back to corporate. So we have these titles. You're a corporate farm, you're a CAFO, you're this, you're that. Folks, it's a family farm. And so it's legislators, but it's also coming from the public. It's also coming from, in Albany, the press. It's coming from a
Press is
society,
looking for,
and we live this in Albany, that what's the latest fad? What's the different flavor of vanilla that we can jump on?
The pink sexy, I'll challenge you
Right.
for the rest of today,
Yeah,
is not once used local,
correct.
organic, or sustainable.
Right.
Just try it one day
not-
without using that in your
words?
terminology.
Yes.
Yeah, just try to go one day without using those.
Why?
Because it's a sales pitch.
What's it say? Those words are a sales pitch.
I can talk about, if you want me to talk about sustainability, family farms, I've got a puppy at home, it's sexy.
And
But just talk about agriculture.
right.
Don't label it like he's talking about.
So that's
Just
that's
talk
what-
about agriculture.
Just use
So that's
agriculture
what
without.
that's what I'm
without
trying to
a
get at. So we
qualifier. I
have-
see what you're saying.
And a lot of it, again, is driven by fad, by a population that doesn't understand agriculture. And that's why this forum is so important, because we learn from each other. That's why we're all
And
here.
I want to say this too, Phil, because respectfully.
And you're right, Phil, you're right.
Listen, I understand your challenges, but I'll tell you this, I respectfully disagree, and here's why. I understand why you have risen to speak. I really do. But the unintended consequence of what you're communicating is, I think that you're not fully appreciating the challenge that we had to change the balance. Because I know you didn't mean to, you really did not, but you're almost defending the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of corn that, we changed the crop insurance program to reflect the dynamic here. Our specialty crop, our fruit and vegetable growers here, sometimes they grow 3 crops on the same land over the course of a year. But when I tried to explain this initially, I mean, I got, sort of the Heisman on it. No, we ultimately prevailed, but it took 2 years to prevail. So I get why you're saying don't pigeonhole. I get you on that, but I would also tell you this, that by framing the debate, that recognize, and this is actually, we were advocating for you. We were actually arguing that the family farm, the nature and the character of the farmer and the challenges the farmer has in the Northeast are different than those in the Midwest and the West. And we were able to use those arguments, working together across lines, we were able to alter some of these programs. So, I certainly understand, the emotion that comes with your communication and some of the things that you mentioned, because you took umbrage to some of the characterization in the paper. I want you to know that that's part of what we all deal with. That you've heard from both our assemblymen that they deal with this sort of throwaway line, all you're doing is helping corporate farms. Look, we actually made progress in pushing back against the Midwest and the West. And some of those who were opponents of our bill were trying to say, oh, this is just a subsidy to corporate farms, not recognizing or not fully appreciating the fact that we've made progress on that to support the
That
budget.
was the statement in the local paper.
Well, let's stop here because it can go further, and
I just want to finish one thing
Okay.
real quick. And I would say, Phil, from where I live, you're absolutely right. And we have a society that is too quick to label. And it goes from labeling into agency regulation, into statute, into economic funding, and into support from the community. So this issue with BARD is happening now. We have dairy farmers now who are at risk of losing their customer base because of someone's definition of CAFO and how that translates into what that means for the milk coming to BARD. That's a real issue happening now, and it's all about labeling, and it's all about a lack of understanding of what is the product and who's producing it. And so I just
yeah,
want
no.
to leave it there, because
So-
it's real and it's happening.
so the
Yes.
wall that we hit is not at all subject matter related. It's actually the clock on the wall.
Oh, rats.
Because we have another session starting at 9 o'clock, and otherwise we're going to cascade into a day where we're here much later than what we had planned. Number one, I'm not insensitive to this. The name of our corporation is Hudson Valley Agribusiness. We get questions daily. Does that mean the Monsanto funds you? Does that mean this funds you? Does that mean that? No, the fact is a farm is a business. The corporate structure of that farm is done for reasons that the family and the business or the structure make for financial purposes, liability purposes, etc. But I think you're right. We are caught in labeling and dialogue in the Northeast because we are part of a national and international market opportunity, and the media is often generated from perspectives that are not based out of a 60,000 person county with multi-generation farms. I'm not insensitive to that, not at all. So I want to thank everyone who's up here. I really appreciate it. I want to thank you guys. I hope in between sessions, at lunch, this evening, further down the road in the spring, we keep this going
Let's do it
because
again.
the tip of the iceberg, and I think, Phil, your dialogue is so important. We illustrated in the Farmland Protection Plan that the large farm, the small farm, the beef farm, the organic farm actually rely on one another in this county, and that there are operations that rely on the second farm or the second home landowner that you couldn't be farming in the Northeast without because of land access issues. So this is a really complex dialogue, and I appreciate you bringing it
As I
up.
went
Thank you,
walking
everyone.
up in the highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. I roamed and I rambled